Dave?
Bob, you addressed a little bit of this yesterday when you were talking about Kevin and teams shutting him down at the end of games and your guys not being able to get to the ball to him. Are you more concerned about him trying to get the ball and doing something with it, or your guys maybe taking advantage of the fact that there are two guys on him and somebody's open?
Probably a little bit of both. KJ's not going to force things. He's not going to take bad shots, and he kind of lets the game come to him. And really, when you look at it, I mean, a lot of what he does is off the offensive glass. I think you go back to the last game. He threw it out. He didn't have a good angle to score. He threw it out, and instead of throwing it back to him when he reestablished, we shot it. And I guess it's good if it goes in, but it didn't go in. So we've got to do a better job of getting the ball to him. But at the same time, I don't want him to force things. I think he kind of did that at the beginning of last year. Tried to be somebody that he's not. And I think he's done a great job of playing within himself this year.
Hurts.
Bob, Mark Few characterized you as one of the last of the great characters in the game coaching. Has it changed, and is it changing with guys like Spoonhour and Digger and Carnesecca leaving, and the personality of the coaches maybe being somewhat more three-button suits?
There's just so much more attention now. With social media. I mean, could you imagine some of the other guys, old guys? It makes. I think there's still characters in that. They just do it behind closed doors now. I mean, it's not. I mean, I know just about everybody here in this field, and I mean, there's guys that are funny and have a lot of fun. They just you can't do things as public as what guys used to do. Social media. It's not not even blaming you this time, Bob. It's social media.
I forgot to remind, too, please give your name and affiliation before you ask a question.
Coach, Justin Jackson, when you look at Gonzaga's guard play, what does Truck have to do to answer, or is that even part of the equation?
Make open shots. Truck has struggled at times to make open shots, and he is our best perimeter shooter. He's our number one option on the perimeter. And I mean, when KJ's been pretty consistent, when neither one of those guys play well, we're pretty bad. If we get one of them to play well, then we've got a chance. And when we get both of them playing well on the same night, we're pretty good. So Justin, you can't. Everybody wants guys to be something that they're not sometimes. Deshaun's not around anymore. It's not a guy that you could throw the ball to virtually anywhere, and he could get it on the rim and make a play. I think the most important thing is guys play within themselves and do what they're good at doing.
Julian Bimbo, Boston Globe. Frank Martin mentioned earlier that you guys had a conversation on Sunday just about being in the same place at the same time for the tournament. Just how did that go? And can you just kind of describe your relationship, and if it's special to kind of be in Pittsburgh with him, two teams?
Well, Frank and I have been friends for a long time. I met Frank when he was coaching at Miami Senior, and I really enjoyed going down and watching him conduct practice. I enjoyed watching their games, how hard they played. I tease Frank all the time. I said I had to hire you before I ever got one of your players, which I've never got a player from Miami Senior, but, you know, Frank being my assistant obviously went out and recruited some guys. He does things the right way. You know, Frank's a guy who got into coaching for all the right reasons. He got into coaching because he loved basketball. He got into coaching because he wanted to help kids. He got into coaching because he wanted to be able to make a positive impact on young people's lives. And you know, I have great respect for Frank and what he's done. I mean, obviously, talked him into going to Manhattan, Kansas to start with, and he's really what coaching should be about.
Dana O'Neill with ESPN. Bob, is there any advantage in this situation to being close to home versus Gonzaga's travels, or is it completely outdated at this point?
Well, it's like I told somebody the other day that, you know, they were talking about, you know, them flying 2,200 miles. I said they've never rode with our bus driver. I'm stressed the time I get in the bus. No, Dan, I don't know. You know, that I think Mark probably has a better handle on it than what I would. You know, hopefully our people find ways to get tickets, and we have a nice crowd here. But, you know, when you have 550 tickets and 8,000 season ticket holders, that it doesn't go as far as what you'd maybe like for it to. But hopefully they find ways to get tickets, and we have a great crowd here. I mean, generally they do.
Coach Tim Lewis with Creme TV in Spokane. Going back to a relationship with a coach, you just brought up Mark. Talk about your relationship with Mark Few and what he brings to the table as a coach.
Well, I've known Fuey since he was working for Monson, so he's a fun guy. He's a great guy to be around. We played him in Cleveland, and I think it was 2000, 99 or 2000, something like that, and they play the right way, and he does. He's done a great job of recruiting guys that are skilled. They pass the ball extremely well. They defend. He kind of defensively they keep you off balance. He'll change it to keep you off balance, and so you don't really get in rhythm against him. But I think more than that, I mean, he's a good friend. You know, he's a guy that is just fun to hang out with.
Jack Bogacek, Charleston Daily Mail. Bob, is your biggest frustration this season the fact that so many times you all haven't been able to finish games when you've had leads and let it slip away?
No, Jack, I think it's we've lost 10 games by 29 total points. I mean, that's a lot, and we haven't finished games, and it's. If it was just one guy that was screwing it up all the time, I wouldn't play him in the second half. I mean, you know, but it hasn't been. It's different guys. It's different guys that, you know, you could go down through all those games, and it's not always the same guy. Not always the same guy who throws the ball away. It's not always the same guy who commits some other kind of turnover, and it's not the same guy that, you know, with opportunity to kind of put games away, goes to the foul line, doesn't make shots. It's been a total team effort.
Bob, I'll ask you one. You've got players who've been to the Final Four, players, you know, who've been made multiple NCAA tournament appearances. Does that make any difference when you play in another tournament, being able to draw on those experiences and knowing how to deal with all the various elements that go into an NCAA tournament? Or is it just basically another championship basketball game?
I mean, you would like to think it helps. You know, when I went to Cincinnati in '92 was the first time that, you know, we obviously had gone to the NCAA tournament. We went to the Final Four, and then the next year we got beaten overtime by Carolina, who went on to win a national championship. We got beaten overtime. And you start thinking this isn't that hard. But obviously it is. I remember my first NCAA tournament. I was at Akron, and we played Michigan, who was the #1 seed in the tournament, and we played well, lose by I think it was 6. And I'm sitting in the locker room. I'm thinking, how can you win 6 games like this? How can you possibly beat 6 teams this good? I mean, it's very, very difficult. I don't know. I think sometimes it's great having that experience. I think what helped us probably in a couple years ago when we went was we got beat the first game, the first round, and they were very determined that wasn't going to happen again. So I don't know. We depend on those guys that were up here for so many things because everybody else is basically a freshman, and I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. How's that?
But I know you do know how good a player Kevin Jones is, the leading scorer and rebounder in the Big East. Obviously, he's the guy that carries you and will be a very integral part of what you do in the tournament.
No, he's the only guy in the country that's averaging over 20 points and 11 rebounds. He's the only guy in the country. So, I mean, obviously he's had a terrific year.
Any more questions for Coach Huggins?
Bob, Michael Cohen from the Daily Orange. With Syracuse without Fab Melo this week, can you relate that at all maybe to when you had to play without Kenyon, that loss right before the NCAA tournament?
I think what Fab gave them was a more physical presence. They still have guys who can block shots. They're just not as physical. They're not as big and strong as what he was. Kenyon was a totally different deal. I mean, Kenyon was. We played 2 freshmen. Started 2 freshmen in the backcourt, and the first guy off the bench was a sophomore, and then the next guy was a freshman. And they didn't guard anybody, but they didn't really have to. They just turned him loose to Kenyon. He blocked it, and they ran down, scored, and thought they were having a hell of a game. It's. And we ran everything through him offensively. I mean, he passed the ball so well. You couldn't guard him one-on-one. So you throw it in, and he did a great job of finding people. I remember we were playing Larry's team at Iowa State, and my assistant says, "Hugs, you got to run something." They had narrowed the gap a little bit, and so I just said, "Throw it to Kenyon." He threw it to Ken. They didn't double him. He scored. They doubled him. He threw it out. We hit a 3. It makes you a really good coach, guys like that.
Anything else for Coach Huggins?